Hello, everyone, and welcome to Twillow Talk. This is our first episode for the year 2023. And I am Tanys from the Twillow Lifestyle Community, Twillow Lifestyle Academy. I am a Reiki Master. I am a Celtic Shamanic High Priestess and a Crystal Master. And looking forward to sharing with you today with my beautiful co-host, Jennifer.
Hi, Al. I am Jennifer Jurkofsky, and I'm with Twillow Lifestyle Academy, as well as my holistic self-counseling. I am a registered psychotherapist, certified Canadian counselor, intuitive life coach, Reiki master, the fun stuff. I think so. I think it's all fun. So, yeah, it's great to be here in 2023. Holy moly.
I know. I don't know where the year went.
No, right?
I don't know where the last 3 years went, to be honest.
That's par for the course these days, right?
It's been like this blur. Mm-hmm. So why don't we start off this one just by chatting a little bit about last year?
Yeah.
I want to say, because it's the first one of the season or the year, I'd like to kind of say, what we do here with Twillow Talk. So Jen and I get on, Twillow Talk started because she and I would have these long, in-depth conversations about all sorts of spiritual stuff. And we were like, we should be recording this. And then that morphed into, let's do Twillow Talk. Let's do it live. So this is when we started this, I guess, last year sometime, right? Or the year before.
Well, we started it before, but it was sporadic and it was a little all over, and we were still trying to get our stuff together.
Yeah.
But last year it started to be a regular Monday night thing, and we've loved being able to do this live and have interactions and have feedback and answer questions and all of that kind of stuff. So it's been a real honor and a real pleasure to be able to do this.
Yeah. So welcome, everybody. And know that you can put your chat questions in. We will answer questions and stuff along the way. What we usually do, so last year we had a different deck, and we would pull a card every time, and then we would talk about it. So the deck that we had was one with lots of topics in it. And so this year we're going to do a different deck because we almost made it through the whole deck, I think, last year. So this year we're going to do a different one. So this year we're going to try this one anyways. We'll see how the year goes. So The Soul's Journey, and it's by James Van Praagh. So it's this one. Yeah. So this is where we're going to get our topics from this year. And basically each card, I'll just show you one here. There's a good one for today. Loneliness. So each one has a topic and then an affirmation. Okay. And so what we'll do is we'll chat about that. And so whatever, kind of comes up for you guys in the audience, please let us know. Because we did decide to do this live for that reason, so that we could have the interaction. And we really value, when you share your energy with us. So even those that are not on live right now, if you happen to catch this after, please put your questions and stuff. I mean, we're both tagged in it, so we'll be able to respond and stuff. To questions or whatever after, just not on live video. Okay. So let's talk a little bit. I think we should start off by talking a little bit about last year, energy-wise. And then maybe we'll do a little bit of a sort of what we've been encountering in the last week or so. Because this is, we're just back. We've taken 2 weeks off, and we're just kind of back after the holidays and stuff. So let's do a little recap. So what were your thoughts about last year, Jen?
Last year was a bit of an up and down kind of year. So from what I've noticed with everybody is there were some really good moments and there were some really, really tough ones, which is par for the course, right? That's how things go. But I think having come out of lockdown, having been able to come out of really feeling, that everything we'd been forced to make all of changes.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that for a lot of people, even though it was hard adjustment, a lot of people appreciated the adjustment too, to a slower pace, to being able to work from home, to being able to do things a little bit differently. And so this opening again was actually really hard for a lot of people.
Yeah. That's,
You know?
I found that with my clients too. They were struggling with having to go back to the busyness, because I don't know that it's really all that, we do it because we feel obligated in so many ways to jump into this busyness. And we feel an urgency to get things done. I mean, I'm certainly from my own experience as well, right? Like I did not take enough vacation last year. I'm just saying. So, and it is this urgency to feel like, you really want to get things done, because we didn't get things done for 2 years. So it's almost like everybody felt like, oh my gosh, I haven't been doing anything for 2 years. Let's like cram it all in. That doesn't work, guys.
No. And then on the other side of it, there are those people who are like, I've gotten to just do everything at my own pace from home, and you want me to go do that again?
Yeah.
Right? And so there's, we talk about all of these different things, and there is always this spectrum, right? And there's going to be people at either side of it and everybody in between. And I think that, and as is the case through all of it, as it was through the pandemic, as it was through things opening again, and as it's going to continue to be, is be patient with yourselves, be patient with each other, pay attention to what you need in this moment, and do the best that you can to try to honor that.
Yeah, for sure. I think even for myself, I think that I'm checking in, and I'm checking in the moment, but maybe not in the big picture. So it's a really good idea to kind of not only check in the moment, but sit down for a little longer and kind of go, all right, where am I at? Have I had a day off? Have I had a day where I actually absolutely did nothing? And I'll tell you, it's not always easy when you haven't been doing it. That was definitely my experience. I took 2 weeks off, and the first week I was still busy doing stuff. And the second week, I was like, the first part of it was like, I don't know what to do with myself. What do I do? I know I'm supposed to be doing something, but I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing, because I didn't have work.
Yeah.
And it was a good thing, because I did end up getting into like, oh, I'm kind of good with just sitting here. That's a good thing. So I did, like a whole lot of sleep, a whole lot of meditation, a whole lot of that kind of self-care. And what a difference it makes, for sure. So, I encourage everybody to just make sure you build in a day every so often where you just don't do anything. Don't plan, because we tend to, we want to, because we're working so much, and then we say, okay, I really want to see my friends because I haven't been out to see my friends because I've been working. So we plan to do that. I cannot stress the importance of having a day where you don't plan anything. It is beautiful. It is beautiful. Just be.
Yeah. And it's not that there's no doing in being.
Mm-mm.
There is still, but and I love in the Tao talks about, right, that doing, not doing.
Yeah.
Right? It's no longer about the doing. It is about the being. And through that, things still unfold and become accomplished in beautiful ways.
Yeah. I mean, I still got a fair bit done around the house that I hadn't had a chance to get to for a bit, but it didn't feel obligatory, I guess is the word. It was like that expectation of myself was not the same. It was like, if I feel like doing it, I'll get up and do it. Otherwise,
Yeah.
Hi, Michelle. Thanks for joining us. So, yeah.
We're just talking about 2022 and coming out of the year and how the year was. So, yeah.
Hello, Elaine. Yes, you're starting the Celtic Shamanic class with us. It's awesome.
Exciting. Very cool.
I'm looking forward to it. And hello, Wellington. Nice of you to join us. So let's look a little bit about just in the last couple of weeks, because I think there's been some huge energy shifts globally, like, that it would bear a bit of talking about. I think that, we had a lot of light coming in the last 2 weeks. But it brings up, whenever we have that stuff, it just brings up everybody's dark, everybody's shadow. And we're going through, Michelle will tell you, she's our awesome Vedic astrologist. We're in like a Mercury retrograde right now. It can kick butt, let me say. and that has been a big thing. Last week we had Mercury retrograde, and we went into a full moon.
Yeah.
And it depends on how you react to the full moon. In the Celtic Shamanic class, Elaine, where we talk about sort of the moons and how they affect us, and we start to kicking my butt. Yeah, I hear you. Yeah. And we start to feel, which ones are stronger for us, because as we go through the year, they transition through different signs. And Michelle says that Mars and Mercury haven't been in retrograde, and it's been intense. Indeed. Yes. So any shadow stuff has come up. So you may be noticing overall, that there's some ancestral stuff coming up. There's some stuff, I thought I dealt with that. We are onions. We peel away our layers. So you may have had some other layers surface of things that you thought you had gone through in the last couple of weeks. Have you had that experience, Jen? I did.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting too, because we're in these, the holidays moving into the new year is always such a time for reflection anyway, right? And so here we are trying to reflect in these times of like, what on earth is going on? Right? And so it's really easy sometimes to get caught up in attributing the chaos or the unrest to our reflection. And so it's really important to be mindful of that, so that you don't end up doing that. Because as you're reflecting, part of that is, we talk about resolutions. Do we do them? Do we not do them? Whatever. I don't care what you do or don't do. But just this idea of reflecting to move into the next year, it's an important piece that we're not reflecting poorly on things because of current unrest.
Right. So for me, it was this constant back and forth in my head. Okay, is this my stuff or is this collective? Right? Because we're so in tune with collective. We're all connected. And so we're so in tune with all of that. How do you really need to ask yourself, is this my stuff or is it collective? Is it my stuff or is it the people I'm living with? Is it my stuff or is it the people I hang with? Right? Because we do pick up on everybody else's stuff often.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you're speaking to, right?
Yeah. And if you're looking at it and you're going, well, I just to go to Michelle's really quick, because I think this is an important piece here, right? Like Mars is going on the 12th. Hallelujah. Mercury on the 18th. Okay.
Those are two real powerhouse planets too, right? Those are they're like no nonsense planets when they come through.
Yeah. So again, I love lots of change coming, and it's true. And so just again, knowing that is happening, that is coming, and it's important. But coming back to this piece, right, where we're reflecting, and then we're deciding, did I, in human design with the new year, it actually happens a little bit later in January than with the calendar, the way we have it now. But basically this whole time is reflecting back on, what was my purpose? Like, did I find purpose in my year, in myself, in my actions, in what I accomplished, right? And am I able to now take that and build on that, or, do something differently to move towards what I want to? And, I think maybe taking right now as a time of rest, like we were talking about earlier, as opposed to trying to figure it all out, right? Let's wait a week or two and then see how we're feeling, and then begin to plan and
the retrogrades. Yes.
right. But
And
going
that's
back to that, I need to be busy and I need to figure it out and I need to do it now. It's like, well, actually right now is the time that we need to step back.
Yeah.
And be kind and compassionate with ourselves and allow things to still move before
and
we
each
jump.
other, by the way.
Yeah.
There's, everybody's picking up on the collective, and it's kind of like a snowball out there. It's like, so, just be gentle with yourselves and everybody else that you meet.
Yeah, I think the everybody else piece is so significant too for right now. So in the human design side of things, some of the shifting that's happened is as of the 6th of January, we moved into this part where we're starting to look at our relationships and how they impact us and, who we want in our lives, who we don't want in our lives, who do we want to bring, stronger connection with, who do we maybe not want to, continue connection with. And so thinking about the fact that that is kind of a collective question or line of questioning right now because of the gates and stuff. And then also recognizing what's going on with the planets and all of that right now and how, that could be impacting our decisions. It's not a time to make the decision.
No, reflect. Right? Don't make the decisions, not till after retrogrades. It's not, I'm sure Michelle will tell you, it's not the time to make any big decisions, not the time to sign contracts. It's not the time to jump in with both feet during these retrogrades, right? So they end on the 18th, she said. So, let's just reflect internally and see how you feel. And, it's about like, okay, so I think about, how do I feel when I'm with this person? Oh, and Michelle's saying, yes, wait till the end of the month. Perfect. No decisions for January.
It's a stasis month. Let's just keep things, as we're moving.
Elaine says she's impatient about to begin the healing. Yes, well, you can do your own healing. Just don't make decisions about changing relationships and stuff. Okay, because those are the things that you don't want to look back on it and think, oh, I made that out of retrograde,
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting because really. As the gates progress, right, we're moving from this reflection on relationships into around the middle of the month, more looking at, the deeper questions about life and are we being fulfilled and, our spiritual journeys and all of that. And then we're going into this last part that is like, oh, what limitations did I just put on myself, or what did I do here? It's a lot of that reflection piece as we move towards the end of the month. And so as we reflect on it, I think it's going to be important at that point to kind of go, okay, how much of this was me?
And how
much of this is, what was going on around me?
Yeah.
Right. And kind of, fresh start it.
Yeah. So I think we should propose the new year start at the beginning of February. That's what I think we should do. Let's just change the calendar and start in February.
Sounds good.
Let's do that. So I think, going forward, for this month, that we've talked about this month. So this month is really, it is about just reflection. Yeah. Do journaling. Journaling is a great tool to be able to get that stuff out without jumping into decisions, right? And the interesting thing is to journal now, like at the beginning of the month, and then read it again at the end of the month. And see how you feel after the end of the month about what you journaled. Because, when we do that, we do this reflection about, this is what I was thinking. So why was I thinking that way? And then we can start to see what is collective and what is us, right? Hey, Susan, nice to see you. Thank you for joining us. There we go. Lots of lovely icons there. Happiest, healthiest New Year to you too.
Yeah.
So
this week of January is fine. Yeah. Well, and
Yeah.
it's interesting because in human design, the actual new year for that is the 22nd of January. So,
Okay. So let's use that as our new year.
it's a good new year.
I like it.
Yeah.
And Elaine says, yes, journaling is so helpful.
Mm-hmm.
It's awesome.
Definitely. Definitely. And journaling is so helpful on a multitude of levels, right? Because, we can think about something and it makes so much sense in our mind. But the moment it comes out, whether it's writing it or saying it or whatever, it actually causes us to kind of go, wait a minute. That didn't sound quite the way it sounded when I was thinking about it, right? And so it gives us opportunity to really kind of dissect what is actually going on, where we might not do that if we're just putting it in our mind and letting it kind of cycle through. Right. And so releasing anxieties, releasing tensions, even uplifting, if we're doing any kind of writing with source and things like that, we can get a lot of really valuable uplift that can help us to navigate through difficult situations and things too. So there's so many really beneficial aspects to the journaling.
Absolutely. So Michelle says, well, there's a Venus-Saturn conjunction on the 22nd. So practice patience in your intimate relation. Okay, let's go to the end of the month.
Okay. I was going to say, we should ask Michelle about it. So thank you.
That's great. So patience with your intimate relations. Yeah.
Good to know.
Absolutely. And this is, we go by the astrology and stuff, but really it's important for us to just remember to take that breath.
Yeah.
And, we may need to take 2 during these things, a couple of breaths to kind of, okay, let's, okay, I'm triggered. Why?
Yeah.
Why am I triggered?
Right.
Sending tons of good vibes. Yes, for Fox.
Oh, most definitely.
Lots
Michelle.
of love, Fox.
Lots of love.
Sending lots of love
for
all of you.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. It's the triggering, that's comes up, and that's kind of what shows you that you're working through your shadow stuff, right? Or you're working through that ancestral stuff. So the triggers, those are what help. They're like an indicator. I know you always talk about how your emotions are actually a good thing because they show you, they're an indicator of what's happening for you.
Yeah.
And so listening
the emotions themselves they're not good, they're not bad, they're messengers, right? But it's how we label them, how we judge them, what we hold on to, what we refuse to accept, all of those kind of things. That's what makes them heavy and hard and all of that. But otherwise, they're messengers, right? And they're there for a purpose. And, it is a really important piece to, also come to a place where if you recognize that an emotion shows up as a messenger, then you begin to understand that you can actually hold multiple emotions within yourself at the same time, right? And then we move to the place where we actually have all emotions within us at the same time. Okay, now what, right? What does that actually mean? What does that actually look like? Well, in Tinhanan, when he talks about it, he's like, what we end up feeling at any given moment is the emotion that we hold on to.
Right.
Right. And so when we're, thinking like, oh, there's so much sadness here, we immediately do this thing where we're like, I'm so sad. Okay, now wait a minute. Let's take a step back. You're experiencing sadness, right? But if you then take it as an identifier for who you are in that moment, now it's not something that's just going to flow through. You've held on to it. Right? And so when we hold on to the emotion, we end up not getting the message that the emotion has for us. Right? And sometimes emotions come and we're intercessory for them. They're not even ours. We're just processing them. But if we hold on to them, they become ours. And then the mind goes, oh, this is ours? Okay. And then it just starts throwing narrative in there, right? And all of a sudden, there's no message being heard. There's nothing. It's just, whoa, this is really horrible, right?
Yeah.
But if we're able to, in that moment, sit and go, wow, okay, there's a lot of sadness here right now. Okay, what does the sadness have for me? Oh, this isn't actually my sadness.
Yeah.
Okay, I can give myself some time to just cry and let this sadness flow so that I don't have to carry it with me.
Yeah.
It's a very different way of approaching sadness.
It is, for sure. And, when we talk about that letting it flow and letting ourselves cry, that's something we're not all that good at in our society.
Yeah.
Allowing and holding space for each other just to cry.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of deep programming. It's a lot of deep programming. I know I process energy that way. And so for me, I'll just start crying. And it may not be my emotion, but that's just how I process. And then I start thinking about it. And I'm like, okay, why am I crying? And then I realize, oh, that's my programming, that I have to figure out why. Maybe I just let it go and just allow myself to cry. And as soon as I do that, it almost like releases the resistance to it. And it just flows so much easier. And it's not as what's the word? I guess poignant, like it doesn't have the same oomph. It just flows. Then it becomes a very cleansing kind of process instead of.
And then if there's, we talk about like the message in the wind, right? That's what our emotions really are. They're not things that we can grab hold of in that way. And so when we're trying to, why am I sad? I got to find the reason. I got to look. We're going to completely miss it because our mind is so engaged in it.
Yeah.
Right. But when we're able to allow that bit of separation and becoming the observer, which we talk about so much, right? We get to a place where when, in this case, the message floats through on the tears, we're able to go, oh, okay, right? And it could be collective. It could be that we're just, opening ourselves to being able to feel. It could be that there is something that, is bringing this feeling of loss or feeling of whatever in, and we have to address it, right? But, the more we resist it, the more it just becomes this dam that eventually is gonna,
It's gonna happen anyway.
floodgate.
Gotta process it one way or another, right?
Yeah.
So I know for the energies that were coming down in the last couple of weeks, for me, it felt like a heart opening type of energy. And I felt like that was kind of, as this energy was coming in, the heart chakra was kind of going, which as you open that up, any of that sort of heart stuff that you might have been, like all your old heart stuff, whatever that is, heartbreak from, whatever exes or, childhood stuff or whatever that kind of stuff comes up, and it sort of bubbles over when you have a heart opening, because that's the whole purpose, is you open it up to release stuff when it comes up for you. And so I felt like the last couple of weeks collectively was much like that. I know it was for me personally, but I do feel that part of it was collective as well. Did you experience that as well, Jen, in terms of?
I found a lot of old triggers being reflected back and it felt like it was the opportunity to release them, which is that heart opening. Right. And so for me, it showed up a lot in, okay, here's that same thing again. Now, what do I want to do with it? Right.
Yeah.
And just being able to be able to observe it. Really, it was a heart opening thing, right? Because you have to have that, in order to move to the observer piece, right? And so it's a beautiful thing, even though it's a really hard thing, right?
Yeah.
And when we have, stuff reflected back to us with these triggers, you're talking about, past life stuff and generational stuff and all of that. But, it's also all of the conditioning that we've experienced, in this life and in all of those lives, right? Like there's this conditioning, even just from our current experiences, that we have to be like, oh, there's that, right? And because it's so ingrained, we don't even recognize it half the time.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's all part of being human, guys. None of us get away with that,
sure.
without that, right? So we all go through this stuff. Everyone.
But I think that's the beautiful thing about the heart opening piece, is that it really moves us from, going through our file room, right, of all of our conditioned experiences and everything else, and going, no, what is important to me right here, right now?
Yeah.
What can I do to honor that? And file room be damned for a little while.
I used to joke about, there would be days I'd go in and I would have my head so full of stuff. This was when I was in management. And I would just feel like I walked into my office and feel like my filing cabinet was all over the floor. This filing cabinet, not my actual filing cabinet. My actual filing cabinet was good. But my filing cabinet in my head, it felt like everything was all over the floor and I couldn't find anything in my head because there was just too much in there. When you run out of room in your closet and you keep packing stuff in, and then all of a sudden you can't find anything. It felt like that.
Yeah.
So it's funny that's what always comes to mind when you talk about the filing cabinet.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is about that. It's about my software. Yeah, I needed to defrag my brain is what I needed to do at that time. Nice to see you, Shem. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, Shem. Yeah, it's true, and I use the file room as an analogy quite a bit, with like EMDR and stuff like that specifically too. But the idea of using the mind as a computer, because we like to think, we're organic, we're not this machine, but we are so mechanical in so many ways of what we do.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we look at these issues that we face and we think, oh, there's something wrong with me. And it's like,
that's something that came up.
You just got a crappy program that served you for a while, but now it's outdated, and we need to just reprogram you. Like, there's nothing wrong with you. You're fine. It's just this program doesn't work properly anymore, and we need to change it.
Yeah. Elaine, feeling my filing cabinet's a big jumble. Yeah. That's been me. Mine's been a jumble too. Yeah, sometimes we need to download a new app.
Yeah.
Right? Let's download a new app. I think I'm going to think about this in this way instead.
Just, maybe delete some of the old ones, because otherwise
your phone just picks up, like it just fills up, and then we get the jumble.
Well, and part of it is, when we going back to the file room stuff too, because, we have like REM sleep and stuff like that, which is where the mind is able to actually go in and it's processing what happened through the day. So it's like it's going in and our little librarian is filing all of the stuff from our day.
Oh, I can hear now.
And
what did you do today?
And so when we think about things like trauma and all of that, like it just gets left right in the middle of the room, so that it's handy. But then that causes all of our other files to get all messed up, right? Or when we think about things like sleep, right? If we're not getting enough sleep, we're not processing all of our stuff, right? And so we end up, and this is what happens when you were talking about before, this idea of pushing ourselves. How much of this opening that happened last year caused us to push ourselves so much that we didn't really even process it?
Yeah. I think that has been the case, because it is like a collective trauma of sorts that we went through.
Yeah.
And so allowing ourselves to process that. I think that Elaine says, have a nice nap. Yes.
Yeah.
Nap when you can. I'm a big believer in naps.
I'm a believer in them. I just have difficulty doing them.
Yeah. I'm a
quiet
good napper, but
time, right? Meditation time.
yes.
Any of that allows you to check in with yourself and have that calm and that peace.
Yeah. So if you can't sleep because of the full moon, like Shem is saying, it was hard to sleep during this full moon. Yeah, it was for some. You know, we all act differently. We all feel the moons in a different way.
Mm.
You know, for me, I think I slept really well this time, but I've had other full moons where I haven't, and it just depends on where they are in your personal chart. I think affects it a lot. But if you can't sleep, like Jen said, meditate, right? Because I think it gives them a chance, those little librarians in our heads, it gives them a chance to go and get a little head start on it, at least. You know, even if it's like a 15-minute meditation, they got 15 minutes to go, okay, let's grab the important stuff and process this.
Well, and meditating even to like bilateral music and things like that, where you're able to get those tunes going and getting the brain doing its crossing over and all of that, right? Like that's a really important piece. We have to have that. So giving our brains opportunity to do that, even if we're not sleeping, is going to be a really important thing.
Mm-hmm. Shem says she started this year with meditation. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I think, you know, that it is a great way to start the year. I actually did that as well. Not right at midnight, but like shortly after. I actually meditated before I went to bed that night because I just wanted to fresh start. I think that it makes a difference. I really do.
Mm-hmm.
Helps to raise our vibe to get to that point.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there is something to be said for, you know, setting that precedent, because a lot of people take the new year as kind of a reset.
Yeah.
Right? And now what? Now what? What do I want to make this year to be? And so it's beautiful. We started with meditation too, and it's, you know, it's setting the stage for what, you know, you want to bring in as you move forward into 2023.
They're saying to me the term quiet confidence. I don't know why that's coming up right now, but that's what they're telling me. Quiet confidence. So I think that the meditation helps us to create that quiet confidence in our journey overall.
Yeah. Oh, most definitely. I mean, quiet of the mind.
Yeah.
But also quiet, period.
Yeah.
Right? We were talking about triggers, and, you know, we have our natural conditioned responses to these triggers, and often it's reactive.
Yeah.
Right? In some way or another, you know, and so can we quietly sit in that space of discomfort and confidently work through it, knowing that we're going to be okay, right? Mm-hmm. Because we are okay.
And we're not alone.
Mm-mm.
You know, I picked that card, loneliness, that came up there, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not that we have to talk about loneliness, but we're not alone. We're all connected. Yeah. So it's, and we forget that, I think. And sometimes we don't feel it. We can, when we're in the depths of being triggered, it feels disconnecting.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's what we do, right? We pull the narrative, and then we get so caught up in our story around the triggering event.
Mm-hmm.
And then that is the only truth that we're able to recognize in that moment. And we end up isolating ourselves.
Yeah.
Because we're so wrapped up in that, right? And we're no longer present with what we have available to us. You know, phone a friend. You know, sitting.
Yeah. What's the millionaire show?
Yeah, whatever show that was.
It was like phone a friend is one of the options.
Mm-hmm.
I do that. I use my phone a friend. It's often Jen. What do I do? Breathe. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. You're supposed to breathe.
Yeah.
It's true, because when we get in that triggered space, right? We're in the fight or flight response.
Mm-hmm.
And
Well,
that part of our brain shuts off, right?
that's it. And so, it's funny because, I may have mentioned this last at some point on the show, but I'm reminded of, and I talk about this with clients too, there was a meme that went by forever ago, and it was the picture of the cat, right? And he's sitting in the cat carrier and he's staring at the cage door. But the lid to the carrier isn't even on. Right? And so we get so tunnel visioned into, what we think is the problem, right? The door at this point is he thinks is the problem, that we don't recognize that we actually have other options and alternative ways of looking at the situation and managing it. Right. But sometimes, and I love, like Shem said, like, I don't want to, sometimes we don't want to see it. And it's so true. And, we sometimes, we hold on to a problem or a trigger or a trauma even because some part of us is defined by it.
Mm-hmm.
Or we've decided that this part of us is, we need it for some reason. Right? Or we need somebody else to acknowledge it in a certain way before we can release it. Like, we have all these narratives around why we have to still suffer before we're able to let it go. Mm-hmm. And it keeps us trapped in there. Mm-hmm. Right? And so, as we're talking about, like, how do we move forward and what do we want to do differently? That ability to be able to observe again is such a huge piece, right? Because even just the idea of loneliness, mm-hmm. It's like, okay, what is the narrative that I'm telling myself right now that feels lonely, right? I've got nobody to talk to. Nobody understands me. Yeah, maybe I actually don't have anybody around me. Yeah. Right? But they all feed that feeling. And so this is where we were talking about before, in that idea of all of the emotions are within us at the same time. If I feed this feeling of loneliness, I get so wrapped up in it. Now I don't necessarily see that I actually could have joy right there too, and find a way to have that, right? And to embrace that. And it's okay to have them both happening together. Yeah. Right? And so, we think we have to, do this or do that, or, this is the only way, or we hold on to stuff because it means something for us, or we've identified it with so long. Who would I be without it? Right? Yeah. Like, there's all these things that come up, and, I think that being able to just begin to observe them is really the first step in doing anything with them. In any of the reprogramming and any of the, filing things away, whatever analogies we've used, right? That first step is to be able to, go into the file room and just look at it. Mm-hmm. Right? Observe the program.
And meditation is a great way to do that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And remember, your guides are around you all the time. Mm-hmm. Right? So we are never alone. We could be in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of wilderness. We're never alone. Our guides are always there. We just need to ask. Close our eyes, ask, and feel. They're always there. So it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. And so, when we think about the new year and what do we want to bring with us, right? And sometimes it's, and my big thing, open and curious. Yeah. Just be open, right? I'm going to be curious to what is going to come and what is going to show itself, and how I'm going to respond. And it's okay if it's not great all the time.
Mm-hmm. Right? Yeah, forgive yourself if you do, lose patience or whatever. That is part of being human. We're supposed to feel it all.
Yeah. Right.
We may not like it all. We might not like how it feels, but right. It gets messy.
Yeah.
But we are supposed to feel it all. Mm-hmm. That is what we're here for.
Yeah. And thank you, Shem. I love the comments there.
Yeah. Love there. Yeah. Love, just observe it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's what we do, right? We go in and we judge it. And then we label it. And then we judge ourselves. And then we tell ourselves we're horrible because we're, judging ourselves. And then we're beating ourselves up about it. And then now we're, anxious that, like, what am I doing to myself? And oh my goodness. And now I'm angry at myself. What do you, right?
How did we get so caught up in that story? It's ridiculous. But we do it anyway because we're human.
Yeah. And that's, being able to come to that place of being the observer, right? It allows us space to be separate from it.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as we can have that little bit of separation, then we recognize, okay, I'm not this thought. I am not this feeling. I'm having a thought. I am having a feeling, right? But I am able to be the observer of both, and I get to choose where I go from here.
Well, I think we had a conversation over the weekend about that, that I'm experiencing this. I'm not sad, mad, angry, whatever it was. I don't even remember what it was about now, but I remember there was this moment where we had to distinguish that this was, I am experiencing this. I am not this, I am experiencing this.
Yeah. And it changes everything around the experience. The entire energy shifts, right?
Yeah, I was talking to somebody about this too. You can really feel the words that you use have a weight to them, and that's where spells come from, right? When we're talking about mystic stuff and metaphysics. So when they use spells, it's because your words have energy. They create an energetic frequency, and so the words that you use with others and with yourself, because we don't monitor our self-talk as much as we monitor it with other people. And even our self-talk, we're like putting spells on ourselves when we use the denser words. So like I'm trying to think of a good example. Can you think of an example?
I think the conversation was around suffered versus experienced.
Okay, that's what it was. Yeah. Yeah. So saying I suffered this when I was a child, for instance, rather than I experienced this as a child. So if you just think about the difference in the energy or the weight of those two comments, those two phrases, it's a huge difference in how it feels. And it's good to keep that in mind when you're talking about yourself as well. Like in here, we're talking to ourselves.
Yeah. Well, we can be so mean to ourselves sometimes.
Oh yeah. Absolutely, we can be mean to ourselves, and we don't even think twice about it.
No. And the number of times I've said, would you say that to your best friend? Would you say that to your child? Would you say that to... No. Well, why the heck are you saying it to yourself? Like, enough. What are you doing?
I know I've caught friends and they'll say something like something self-deprecating, whatever. I'm like, don't talk to my friend that way. And they're like, what? Well, you're my friend. I don't want anybody talking to my friend that way, including you.
Yeah. Yeah, but words have so much power. And I like to go back to relational frame theory too, because I think that this is an important piece in all of this, in that words have power, but also the association we have with the words has power.
Yeah.
And so even using things like better than, less than, smarter, dumber, more lovely, less lovely, whatever it is, right?
Comparisons.
Yeah, any of that kind of thing. It also, it's, we look at it and we're like, oh, well, that's true. And it's like, well, according to who? Right? And how does that association even really make sense when we recognize the uniqueness of all things? Right? Can I even say that one thing is better than another thing? Right? And so, here is this labeling that we have. And, in one of the first steps in relational frame theory that they talk about is language. and just language in general, right? Because if I say something to you in a language that you understand, you have an interpretation of what those words mean, right? And now you put them back through all of your filters and all of your previous experiences and everything else, and you determine whether or not the inflection and the tone and everything else about what was just said resonates for you or not, and then how you're going to feel about it in like a second.
Yeah. Very
right?
quick. That's very quick.
If you walk past somebody and they're talking in another language and they look at you and say something in that language, you're going to think about the tone or the inflection or whatever. But if they just said something and turned and walked away, you're going to be like, ugh, whatever, I don't care. Right? But if somebody in your language did that, all of a sudden you're like, oh, well, I don't know if I like what that person just said. Well, and now we're interpreting it for ourselves and we're giving ourselves meaning behind it. And all of a sudden our mood has changed completely. Whereas somebody says something in a weird language that we don't understand and they're even a little mean about it, we're like, ugh, whatever, your stuff, keep going. Right?
Mm-hmm. So why do we
don't engage, of course, right? That's a whole other thing. But it's just the idea behind it of what we carry because of the meaning that we give to things.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And then on top of that, we make arbitrary associations. One of the lessons in the class for it that I remember was there was a list of words and then another list of words. And at random, it was pick 2 words. Okay, how are they associated? Every single thing could be associated somehow. The mind will just put them together and will find a way to put those things together, even if they've got nothing to do with each other. Right? And so when we recognize the mechanics of the mind and what they do, we go, oh, okay. So the mind doesn't have to just run rampant with all of these things. We actually have the ability to control it. And one of the first steps in that is being really mindful of the words that we use.
Yeah.
Sorry, I have to geek out every now and then.
No, I think it's awesome. I have to think about it. I'm like, all of a sudden I go in listener mode and I'm
yeah, but it's such an amazing thing to recognize that the mind really is this program. And we think that it is so much about who we are and what we are. And it's like, we're more than that, right? We are these spiritual beings who have capacity in the 3D through this form. But we are not this programming, right?
For this brain that keeps,
That's what I mean. This thing that programs things and decides what's what. And
yeah, for sure. For sure. That is a very important point, right? We are spiritual beings having a human experience. We're not human beings having a spiritual experience, as we have all been led to believe.
Yeah.
Right? It's quite a change in how we function, how we view the world.
Yes.
Body is our hardware. Yes, exactly. Yeah. Body is the hardware and the brain, the software and the soul operator.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the operator gets to make the decisions.
Right.
Not the software, not the hardware.
Exactly.
I love that, Shem. Thank you.
That's great. So for this coming year, I mean, we're coming close to our time now. What should we focus on this year? So I want to hear from you guys out there. There's a bunch of you on. Let us know, what are you going to focus on this year? What is your intention this year? And I'm not talking about resolutions. I'm not talking about, I want to do so many sit-ups every day. I want to know what you want to focus on in your personal development. Mm-hmm. What does that mean to you when I say that? What is your intention to focus on? What do you want to bring more into your life of?
Yeah. I love intention. I think intention is so important, right? You're saying not resolution, but intention. And every moment of every day, how much are we actually being intentional, right? And how much are we just kind of floating through our day?
How do we bring that mindfulness? And maybe that's a good intention.
Yeah.
Bring more mindfulness to our
Mhm.
days.
Yeah. Or even to be more intentional.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Shem, be my best version and what I'm here to do.
Mhm. Yeah.
And maybe it's about feeling into what you are here to do.
Yeah.
Because what are we here to do? Because that is a very multi-layered question right there.
Yeah. And, you know, there's a lot of room for judgment in that. So be very careful. I love it. And of course, we want to be the best version and do what we're here to do. But remember that in every moment, we do the best that we can do in that moment.
That's right.
Right? And sometimes, we're at full capacity and good to go. And sometimes we are running on steam and it is about to be done. Right? And so be compassionate with yourself as that best version and what, is best. So that if one day you're like, ugh, that wasn't my best, well, it was the best I could do today.
Exactly.
Right? And tomorrow, my best will be whatever it can be tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right.
Because that is what happens. I mean, that's with the astrology, you see that, right?
Mm.
That's why with the full moon, we have these days where we're like, the full moon's coming and you're like scattered and you can't focus and you're like, that day, your best might be very different from a new moon day where things are clear. There's clarity on things.
Yeah. I love using, and I use this a lot with clients, the spoons and forks analogy.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I have enough spoons to get through my day. And how many forks are in me right now that I'm going to have to take out before I can actually function? Right? And some days we're riddled with forks and we got no spoons left.
Yeah.
Right? And other days we got full spoons and we're free of forks and we're golden and we're rocking it. And then all of a sudden we think that's my best version. Well, wait a minute. You had a lot of spoons. You didn't have any forks pricking you at the moment. It was your best version that day.
Yeah.
Right? And on the day that you're riddled with forks and you've got no spoons left, you bring in some self-care and you say, world, later, that's your best version. Right?
Right. Yeah. Very good to keep in mind.
Mm-hmm.
Self-forgiveness, self-understanding.
Yeah.
Self-compassion.
Mm-hmm.
So when I asked for an overall kind of thing for an intention, like a collective intention for the year this year, I was given 3 C's.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. The intention is caring, collaboration, and compassion.
Love it.
Mm-hmm. And so that's what, if we can keep those things in mind going forward this year, show caring or behave in a caring manner, right? Collaborate because we are a collective. It's what we're here to do. And show ourselves compassion as well as those around us. What a way to make a great year.
Yeah.
Right?
I love it.
So let's do that.
Mm-hmm.
To the best of our ability on that particular day. Right? An intention is just holding the intention.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Where our intentions go, our energy flows.
Definitely.
So we thank you all for joining us today for this Twillow talk, the first one of 2023.
Hey.
Yay. Jen, would you like to tell people where they can reach you and where they can contact you?
Sure. You can find me through Twillow, through Tanys. You can find me at myholisticself.com, myholisticselfcounseling.com, or on Facebook at Holistic Self Counseling. I think that's what it's right. Yeah. And if you go to my website, you'll be able to find my Facebook. and like all the other social media stuff. So that's the easiest. myholisticself.com.
Awesome. And I am Tanys Coughlin from the Twillow Lifestyle Community, Twillow Lifestyle Academy. And I just want to send out so much love to all of you and gratitude for starting this new year with us. Looking forward to having lots of interaction with all of you. Tons of love. Thank you all so much. And we shall see you next week. Michelle and I will be on Wednesday to do messages Wednesday night. Wednesday night Eastern Standard, it'll be 7 o'clock. And stay tuned for the schedule for the Twillow Lifestyle Academy. We're working on that this week to get it finalized for the next little bit. And I am super thrilled, excited for the new year.
So much so.
Yeah. Have an awesome night, everyone. Take care.